Hello, this is Don Milne. I'm making this video to share with our section directors so you can help our volunteers to avoid writing World War II stories that already exist. So we're finding this happens. We'll review some of the reasons why, but it's happened with our D-Day project and our Pearl Harbor project. I got one report that it happened on Arlington so far. We want to try to avoid a situation where someone has spent hours researching a story and then they go to save it and they notice, oh, there's already a story out there. So there's a few reasons how this is happening. The main thing we just have to stress with our writers is that they always need to check first to see if a story already exists on Fold 3. This is a screenshot of the upcoming Bootcamp 2.0, but there's also a version in the current Bootcamp. And in this part, it's the very first thing we do about finding a name to write about. We share a video that says make sure you watch this video because it's going to help you avoid writing a story that's already been written. So I made this YouTube video with the title How to Find If a Name Has a Story. This is available through our Bootcamp, but it's also available on the Stories Behind the Stars YouTube channel. And if people watch this, they should be able to avoid most of the things that happen when someone ends up writing a story that's already being written. So if you get a chance, you want to remind people, especially if you see that they're new and they're probably doing this for the first time, to make sure they do this part. So as a section director, there's some things you can do to help with this. Let's take a look at a section database, and I'll show you how you may be able to use this. So I pulled up this database here. It's mostly completed, but let's say that it is at phase 1 where we've had all of the research done, but we haven't had writers assigned yet. So in this column that says Fold 3 story, a lot of them say no. Some of them have a story. So on this one here, Daniel Casey, you don't need to assign that to a writer because our phase 1 database crew noticed that there already was a story here. Where it says incomplete, then those we can find a writer because they may have a memorial set up, or there may be like a citation posted or a copy of a newspaper story that's been posted. But we consider that incomplete because it's not really a full obituary style story. There's room for improvement if it says incomplete. So those are kind of what we're looking for as a director, is use this column here to help you decide which stories not to assign out. If it has an N next to it, then those are the ones you need to sign out. But we should always remind our writers that even if it has an N next to it, they should still double check and make sure that a story hasn't already been written. So despite our best efforts, some circumstances can't be avoided. And here's a couple of cases how that happens. We may have some maverick writers that they want to help with this project, but they really don't want to report to anybody. So they're just kind of doing it on their own and taking them where their interests lie. And I'm not 100% opposed to this because we want all the stories written, and if they can get them done and they just prefer to work independently and not have to work off of someone else's list, then it's great to have those being started there. And sometimes it's because they're focusing on like a certain fighter group or bombardment group or a certain Marine engagement. So if they're doing that, it doesn't really tie into any projects we're doing, but they're focused on this thing, and sometimes there's going to be an overlap. So someone is doing stories on Marines that died at Tarawa, and one of them happens to be buried at Arlington. That might be getting done by that person, and then we assign someone to do it through our Arlington project. Most of the time, our phase 1 database crew are going to notice if that story has been added. But what happens in that rare event where they check to see if a story's been written? It hasn't. So a few weeks go by the time we get to the time where we do the assigning to the writer goes in, they don't check, and they write the story, and then they go back and they post it. Well, in the meantime, this maverick writer has added a story at the same time. So those things are going to happen, but if we can remind our writers that always check first, it's going to decrease the opportunity of that happening. The other time that may happen is we have more than a dozen states that are also assigning writers to work on a state basis. So if we have someone in Alabama that's assigned a name and they're working on the state list and the name just happens to be someone that's buried at Arlington, it might show up on fold 3, and if our writers haven't checked first, then that's going to be a problem. Here's an example of a fold 3 page of what someone might see if they were to check first before they write the story. So if you check under World War II, if you check under memorials, and if you check for Leonard Hewlett, you will see that he has this memorial here, and this memorial here. So this one here was one that I posted a while back directly to fold 3, and this one here is the same story that I reposted on Together We Serve. And because Together We Serve profiles are always copied over to fold 3, that one's listed twice. If our writer, the first thing they do is, I got to go to fold 3, I got to see if there's already a story, then they would say, oh, Leonard Hewlett already has a story. Even though I've been assigned that story, I'm not going to write it because it's already out there. And then they should probably contact you and say, you showed a no in the column whether there's a story or not, and there is. So the Comments for Director tab might be a good place for our writers to communicate information like that to our directors. So let's say that Leonard Hewlett was on Watchtower and they're buried at Arlington and it was marked as no, and then the writer got assigned to it, but they double checked first and they noticed, oh, we already have a story about that. They might put here Leonard Hewlett, who the commentator was. They would write the comment, hey, this one was marked no, no story, but there actually was one. And then the director could add a response says, thanks for letting me know. I changed the information in the column where it says fold 3 story from a no to a yes. So that might be a helpful way to use our writers to get us information that we don't have already. So those are the things I want to share briefly today. Hopefully that'll help us avoid having some of our volunteers repeating a story that's already been done. I'd like to thank again all our Arlington section directors for helping with this project. And if you have any questions, let me know. And if it helps to make one of these short videos to explain something, I'll share with all the directors. Bye now.